Well, thank you for joining me. Today we're just leaving Democracy Park in Bear River, Nova Scotia. And I'm just going to kind of do a small little loop around the town. And when I say small, I think you'll understand what I mean by how small. We'll do a little loop around the town before we head back to into Annapolis. It's a beautiful day, July 25th. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. Oh, I wonder what's going on down through there. Probably doing a little bit of maintenance on a bridge or something to that extent. Hard to really tell, to be honest with you. I'm not heading that way. I'm looping back to Bear River, so not overly concerned with the detour. Oh, it's beautiful across there. Bear River, nice little town in the valley. Kind of set back from everything, all on its lonesome. Cherry Carnival, that just went by. That's the community's local kind of summer festival. If you hear something kind of dingling in there around, it's Abby's dog tag. Her and Cooper are in the back. We just left the lake. We were doing a little bit of paddle boarding and some swimming today, and she's a little Miss Busybutt. She doesn't want to stay seated. She just goes kind of from window to window. Always ever curious of what's going on. So now we're headed back down into the town of Bear River. Give you a sense of how the village is kind of constructed. It's just both hillsides in this little valley that the river cuts through. And the properties are just stacked kind of on top of each other going up the hillside. Very nice small little village, small little community. You don't want to blink or else you'll miss it, to be honest with you. Some of the nicer little picturesque places in Nova Scotia tend to be like that. Just small little spots, you blink and they're gone. I used to work for public service in Annapolis, or public works in Annapolis Royal when I was 16, 17 years old. Mowing and whippersnipping and just general maintenance around the town and stuff. I was pretty much a student, like a student summer hire. And I had numerous people that would stop and ask me, because I had the reflective gear on, so I was obviously an employee of something within the town. And it was kind of funny how often I would get asked where Annapolis Royal was by people that were literally either standing or driving right through the heart of Annapolis Royal at that very moment. Which I think goes to show you just the power of social media and stuff now. Like, I think Annapolis Royal and the surrounding areas has a lot better presence now. And you're always kind of able to check, and it's kind of pretty easy to see where you are. You don't really got to stop and ask somebody mowing lawns. But I always remember people stopping and asking. And just kind of the shock and bewilderment on their face of like, huh. You didn't know whether to feel insulted because they drove that far and were kind of like indifferent that they were here and didn't even know they were here. Like, underwhelming, I think, was the least of what you could have said. But it's always kind of funny. It's kind of funny to always think back on stuff like that. It was a rather hot day today, so I think a little bit of lake time was in store. And I think the dogs rather enjoyed it. I know Abby did. And Cooper seems to be doing really well. He's getting out for a lot more swims than we were able to do last year. Just last year we weren't. With the wildfire so close to home, it was kind of hard to just pick up and leave and come out and enjoy your time when there was a wildfire burning 8 kilometers from your home. It was kind of different. But this year seems to be a little bit different. We've had a few little close calls around this community and these parts, but everybody seems to be doing doing the best they can, and the firefighters have really kind of managed everything that's kind of popped up in this end of the province, and we've been able to get away and enjoy some of the time. Away where we can let the dogs swim and enjoy most of the day instead of just a few hours and then we're considering packing up and leaving and whatnot. We just drove through what would be considered Bear River East, and we'd be approaching, this would be Clementsville. These are just small little communities kind of dotted down through, little farming communities and whatnot, and decades ago, these used to have a lot more, you know, these little spots. They had their little general store, they had their community stores, they had their little grocery spots. Now everybody here goes to, they're either going to Annapolis for groceries, or most people would be going to Digby to the superstore. And it's kind of the same thing for pretty much everything on their shopping list you'd be going. Where decades ago you'd had little shops and stuff in Bear River that would have survived on these little communities and whatnot, and now those little hole-in-the-wall shops are mostly, I'd say, cafes and sandwich shops now, because that little commerce kind of just, it isn't same. Like my grandparents, they used to have a little general store, a little community store in Parker's Cove. And they used to sell everything, and everything that you wouldn't want to go out over town to the, you know, to the grocery store, to the bigger store. And back when Grampy used to fish, he used to lobster fish, but he used to lobster fish in a dory. So back when they had the store, they used to keep lobster there when it was in season, and when people would want the lobster, they'd come in, they'd place their order for what they wanted, and he'd go out, he'd go across the road and down across onto the shore, get in the boat and row out to where he had the holding trap, and he'd get the lobsters, row them back in, come up across the road, and the people would usually be getting ready or getting done up with their shopping and be ready to go home. And I mean, this was decades ago. But it makes you I'm kind of intrigued with that way of life. Like, the way we do everything now, the personality's kind of gone into everything. All those little social interactions, and, you know, the little things like the convenience of going into the superstore and just going, yeah, I'll take those 3 lobster out of that tank, and you grab them, you put them in, and there's no connection to the fishery or to the bay or to what had to occur for those lobsters to make it to your dinner plate, so to speak. Where just talking about Grampy rowing out in the dory and hauling up the little trap that was on, you know, it wasn't that far away. It was just far enough away that somebody wasn't just going to stop and grab their you know, take their stuff. But it really did connect you with everything. Was, you know, he was connected to what he was eating. Farm to table is such a big thing now. Like, I don't know, back then it was farm to table, ocean to table. It was, you never even thought of it. So we're cutting in on what's called Clementsport Road, and this is going to connect us to the number 1, and that goes from Annapolis to down to Cornwallis, where the old military base used to be, in which you can take a couple different roads over into Bear River, this being one of them, or continue down the the 101 highway to Digby. But we're just using this as a cut across, and then we're going to jump on the number 1, and this kind of just follows what's called Moose River. It's not much of a river, it's more of just a meandering brook now, but at one time it probably was a pretty substantial little thing. And there used to be a little swimming hole here at one of these little spots, but it's since kind of gone to the wayside, and you used to be able to just kind of pull off the side of the road, and it was all opened up. There was like a dam there, and yeah, it was all nice, like it was a nice deep hole. You could swim. It was relatively safe. I believe even at sometimes they had lifeguards back, I believe, when we were like younger kids. I only came swimming down here a couple times when I, come down with friends off the bus or something like that, staying at their house for the evening or the weekend or something. But there is a number of little homes that are built along this little section of backyards butted up against the river. It's kind of nice, but you can see how low the water level is in it. Nothing really ever recovered from last year. Everything took the big hit, and it's just kind of, I think that'll be a number of years before that ever comes back. Just the natural ground level and groundwater just not being almost non-existent. Now we're on the number 1, and just out there where we was looking, that would be the Annapolis Gut, or the Annapolis Basin, and the Digby Gut. And from the looks of it, there seems to be a lot of fog hanging around into the Digby Gut and out into the Bay of Fundy. Kind of envious of that. I remember the days lobster fishing, being out there, and it'd be 18 or 19, 20 degrees on the water. And you'd think, it wasn't much of a day. It was July or August, July, and it'd be you'd almost think it'd be too cold, and you step foot on land, or really not even step foot on land, but as soon as you start pulling the boats inside the harbor, you just feel that overwhelming heat. And it was almost crazy to think of how he's really going right from one temperature climate right into another, like really direct. There was no buffer there. You were really just kind of boom, snap your fingers, and you're just going from 20 to 27, or even worse. Sometimes with the humidity, it'd be like a 35 or something like that, and you just kind of wish you turned your boat around and go back out on the water. Kind of miss some of those days. Certainly is a beautiful day, though. I think this evening I'm gonna take Abby for a nice little walk around town, and then I think I'm gonna pack up Mr. Cooper and take him for his little walk around town, I believe. And what we started doing with Mr. Cooper is doing a short couple laps around the high school and the surrounding properties there, because kind of nice short little walks that we can do that don't take us all that far away from the car in case he does get lamed up or all at once kind of just decides it's enough for him, because he is 13 and a half years old, golden retriever, and we're just trying to keep him happy, keep him moving, and not overdo it. And most of all, just trying to listen to what he's saying as far as if he's good to go, if he's good to keep, keep walking, or if he needs a little break. So that's the benefit of being able to choose a little spot instead of taking him to a trail or something like that. I can take him to it. I can take him where they got a couple different walking paths that go in numerous different directions. So not necessarily just walking the same loop with him, but we'll be walking the same grounds just in different ways. And it keeps it, keeps it nice for him. It gives him the new smells and lets him get out and smell and just be a dog, even if he is 13 and a half. So we're coming up to the old Upper Clements theme park. So we just passed the picnic park. And on our right is the Upper Clements Trails, which used to be the wildlife park. And on our left, right on that knoll, is where the haunted house used to be. That burned down, and right there on our left is where the old wooden tree topper roller coaster used to be, and you can see the gates right there all grown in. It's really quite sad to think about. Like, there's no reason that had to go the way it did. There was so many things that could have been done with that property. It's so heartbreaking that that's how it ended. It might not always worked as a theme park, but there was so many potential, like so much potential for that property. It was a beautiful little property. It really is heartbreaking. And the amount of people around here with so many good memories and so many positive things tied to that property that now we all just drive by it, and it sits there like a slap in the face, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think a lot of people would say the same thing. I know some of the best memories I had as a kid were at that park. Walking around there with my cousins from Manitoba. Summers that they, would come home to visit us, or even in the years when they moved home. And then later actually getting a job there and getting to walk around there and take lunch breaks down at different rides or going over. And one of the places I used to take my lunch break, I always used to get a poutine and go over, and I'd watch the lynx. They had these cats, the Canadian lynx, and I'd go over and sit and watch them, and man, their paws on them were like, they're massive. They're beautiful cats. So I'd go over and eat my poutine, and I think usually it was a poutine and a bacon cheese dog. It's no wonder I ended up with stomach problems when I was later. Between that and when I went away to school and my diet of pasta, beer, and whatever the heck else. Yeah. No wonder I ended up with stomach issues and other things. So now we're going by Fort View Golf Course, which is it's always been the Annapolis Royal Golf Course, but in recent years it's kind of had a change in ownership, and really I think it almost went under, and it got kind of saved from the depths, and now it's doing pretty good. The course is all right, and I think the big thing is you got to be able to accept that maybe your course isn't going to be a 5-star course. It's just going to be a nice course for outside of Annapolis. And I think once that happened, I think people became a lot happier with that place. For a while, there were a few people that kind of think they had outlandish expectations of what it could be or what it should be. And in reality, there was only ever so much that it could be. Because the reality is there's only so much tourism that's coming to Annapolis because of traffic flow, places to stay, and then at the end of the day, you've got the size, the population for Annapolis that it is, which really isn't a lot. So well, we really have gotten a beautiful day here on Saturday. Couldn't really ask for much better. It always amazes me how packed Annapolis gets in the summer, though. Like if you've watched along, you can see like most of the year you drive down through here and there's hardly a car, there's hardly anything. But like once summer hits, man, you're fighting for every parking spot, you're fighting for everything you got in Annapolis. You see some lobster boats going in the distance up the river. Some much needed TLC going. A little bit of TLC going on that building there. That's always been one of the more beautiful buildings in Annapolis. It's always been painted up lovely and kind of just stood there on her own. It's always been really nice. This guy here, the new Humpback Sandwich Shack. I've looked at his social media and it looks like really nice food. It's got some really some cool kind of sandwiches, and I think one of them was like a nacho style chip, like a chip plate with like a white. It kind of looked pretty neat. I was thinking about trying that one day, but I gotta make good choices with what I eat, because sometimes if it doesn't agree with me, it's a really bad problem. It's not just a bad day, it can be a bad night or a bad week. So I'm kind of out on the limb on that one, but it's nice to see some of that stuff around town, like, you know, different opportunities, different little food options, stuff like that. Things are changing. We're not caught up yet, but we're slowly getting caught up. We're slowly getting there. Ain't not too often you get to see the old school vehicles. I got a feeling that guy might have been at Dalhousie Car Show. Nice little car show out West Dalhousie today. From what I understand, there was a pretty good turnout, so that's always nice. Well, there's no deer today, but this last week or so, there's been a couple deer that's been kind of hanging right around there in behind the Home Hardware in Annapolis and the beginning of the walking trails. And yeah, they kind of sit there and graze off of the plants that have grown up in amongst the Annapolis Home Hardware, I guess, property. But there's always been a family of deer that's kind of been in around town and hasn't really been all too shy about it. I love those sculptures, those big welded sculptures. That one looks really cool. It's a couple, I might be mistaken, but I think it's a couple big like cranes or like sea fishers on the front of the historic gardens. How cute would me and Bria look cruising around in them, eh? A little red one for me, a little red or blue for either of us. Oh my, I'm gonna have to bring it. I know I'm crazy, but that'd be funny. That'd be funner than knock it out. A little convertible for each of you. His and her convertible. Oh my. If you know me, you know not to rule anything out, so. Hill Bridge reduced. There's a lot of construction going on, but that's alright. We need every bit of it we can get. But that's our drive for today. From Bear River up through some of the backcountry roads up to Annapolis. for a beautiful afternoon, early evening drive. And thank you for joining me. And if you've watched until now, I really appreciate you very much. We'll see you on the next one. Enjoy your days. Try not to waste them.